Hey guys, happy Palm Sunday. So we've been reading First Peter up until right now. It's been talking about Christ's suffering and ours, and this coincides with Easter, Palm Sunday. It talks about Christ's suffering, and now we get to zoom in on that. It's like I planned that. So today we're going to look at Luke chapter 19, and we're just going to hit 28 through 39, and it's going to show us a few things about kind of what Jesus was feeling, how the crowd was reacting. And so this week, we're going to use this to kind of explore the emotions in this. We're going to talk about feelings, right? So we're going to get to see how Christ, he came into the town and all these people swarmed him. And we're going to kind of talk about what that looked like, what that felt like. And then on Wednesday, we're going to look at Christ's emotions. And then finally on Friday, we're going to kind of use that to lead into Easter for my talk on Easter Sunday. So let's get going. 28 through 36 is how we're going to... I'll read the whole thing, but our first passage we're just going to look at 28 through 36, which says, "When he had said this, he went on ahead, going up to Jerusalem. And it came to pass, when he drew near to Bethphage and Bethany, at the mountain called Olivet, they sent two of his disciples, saying, 'Go into the village opposite you. Where as you enter you will find a colt tied, on which no one has ever sat. Loose it and bring it here. And if anyone asks you, why are you loosing it? Thus you shall say to him, because the Lord has need of it.' So those who were sent went their way and found it just as he had said to them. But as they were loosing the colt, the owners of it said to them, 'Why are you loosing the colt?'" A good question. "And they said, the Lord has the need of him. Then they brought him to Jesus, and they threw their own clothes on the colt, and they set Jesus on him. And as he went, many spread their clothes on the road. Then, as he was now drawing near to the descent of the mountain of Olives, the whole multitude of the disciples began to rejoice and praise God with a loud voice for all the mighty works they had seen, saying, 'Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest.' And some of the Pharisees called to him from the crowd and said, 'Teacher, rebuke your disciples.'" So we get to see a lot of different events happening in this short period of time as Christ is entering the city. It starts with the donkey. A lot of us know this. This is kind of the part we get to see, especially as kids, it's kind of drilled into us. And it does show humility in that, he doesn't come in riding on some huge, Mustang, but instead, it's a cool because it's kind of humble, but yet, he predestined that mule. He told them it was going to be there. It's another show of his power. And so as he's going down the road, people start laying down their clothes. We see this in 2 Kings with, I think it's King Jehu, sure. And he is entering the town, so all the people put this. So they're treating Christ like royalty. And then they also have the palm leaves, which Luke doesn't mention, but that's a sign of joy, right? So verse 37 shows why they're praising him. It says, "Then as he was now drawing near the descent of the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of the disciples began to rejoice and praise God with a loud voice for all of the mighty works they had seen." So now we get to kind of see in a little bit more here that they're praising him for his mighty works. A lot of them have seen the miracles or heard of them. And John, the book of John tells us that they would have known about the resurrecting of Lazarus. So a lot of people would have probably been coming out just to see this guy, just see what's going on. And when it says multitude, John MacArthur says, "Doubtless many in the crowd were not true disciples," right? So we got to keep that in mind as we're looking through here. And then they quote Psalm 118:26 during this at him. And then in verse 39, we get to see how the Pharisees are feeling during all this, showing their jealousy, telling him to tell him to stop, which he responds with this in 40 and says, "I tell you that these should keep silent, the stones would immediately cry out." So he's saying, even if I stop these people, my name is going to be praised, right? So what do we get from all of this? It's easy to get swept up in emotion. It's easy to go with the crowd. I mean, think concerts, think parades, any big social gathering. It's really easy to go with what the crowd is feeling. You've seen probably on protests and things like that where groups get together. It's a lot easier to be swept towards one emotion when everyone around you is feeling it. I mean, I remember when I was little, I went to the Falling of the Leaves Festival, which wasn't in my town, so I didn't have any town spirit there, and I didn't really care about leaves, but everyone else was having a good time, so I was like, yeah, this is awesome, and they had candy, which I'm always about. So, I mean, thinking of, in terms of Christianity, we even have a term called a spiritual high. Like, we have a name for that, and it's because it's really easy to go to a large conference or a big retreat or something like that and get what we call a spiritual high, get all hyped up, get all emotional about Christ. And I've had the pleasure of playing these and attending them, and I get it because it's great and it's awesome that you're surrounded in that someone's facilitating that for you, and then you get home, right? And everything drives in that, oh, this is reality. I have to facilitate my own learning of Christ. I have to learn how to do this by myself. Because keep in mind, these people come down from this. A lot of these people are the people that crucify him later. Because they're all in town for Passover. So we get to see, the spiritual high goes away. And that's why, I kind of love right now, we are not able to meet, right? We aren't allowed to have these big conferences. We aren't allowed to have these retreats. So right now is a time for you individually, without the crowd, to learn where you are with Christ, to learn what it means to you as an individual, right? How does the resurrection move you? I mean, that is one of the biggest parts of our faith of the gospel, because really any man can die, but the fact that Christ died not only perfect, but that he came back, that's our gospel. What does that mean to you? And then second, he died for you. He died for you as an individual. He took your sin. He knows you. And now he can relate to you because he's felt all of that. He was disconnected from the Father, and he knows that going into this. So we're seeing this huge crowd, and we see later he even weeps, and we're going to talk about that more on Wednesday. But instead of our clothes, we need to figure out what else we need to lay down, whether that's our futures, whether that's our own pride. We need to lay down our lives to show that he is king. Instead of like palm tree branches, we need to show our own joy towards him and spreading that to others and laying that down. So do you wait for gatherings to show your gratitude to Christ? Do you wait for Sunday morning church to be able to do that? You can worship Christ on any day of the week. He's not just a Sunday God. You can worship on a Tuesday. That's fine. Do that. And then secondly, have you ever had taken your own time to consider the gospel and what it means to you? Have you actually, you have a wonderful opportunity to sit down and say, what does this mean? How does this affect me? What do I see in this? To reread it and read through the crucifixion and say, how has Christ shown up in my life through this? So we're going to keep going through this, but guys, it's so important. Don't be swept away. Don't wait for the next big spiritual gathering to show that you love Christ, but instead make this an everyday thing. Use this now to become an individual who loves Christ, so that it's even more fun when we come together as a gathering of people. I can't wait for that day, and I pray that you guys have a blessed week, and that this can be a great week to reflect on just the road leading up to the crucifixion. Pastor Bob just put up an awesome video explaining every day towards the crucifixion, so I hope you guys look at that and that you enjoyed Ken's sermon this morning, and that we can just continue coming together for Easter, using this time to see that a lot of traditions are canceled, so this is our time to use to look at it through our own lens. All right, I'll see you guys Wednesday.